BBC News, hello, I'm Eileen McHugh. A court in Washington has jailed the former leader of the far-right Proud Boys group for 22 years for his part in the storming of the US Congress. The sentence is the longest of any of the 100 convicted of involvement in the Capitol riot of January 2021. Wera Davis is outside the court.
Enrique Tarrio, although he was the last of the Proud Boys to be sentenced for his role in the violent events of January the 6th, 2021, he was the leader of that group, and the judge had made it clear that even though he wasn't in Washington on that fateful day, he did orchestrate, organise and take credit for what happened. Tarrio was in the courtroom as he listened to his lawyers try to plea for some leniency. He stood up himself. He showed a lot of remorse, even though, as the judge pointed out, he hadn't shown remorse in the days and months since the events of January the 6th. But this is a very long sentence, although it falls short of the 33 years that was asked for by the prosecution.
The British government says it will use terrorism legislation to ban the Russian Wagner Group. The law will make it illegal to be a member of or support the mercenary organisation in the UK. Our security correspondent Frank Gardner reports.
The government says the case for prescribing the Wagner Group as a banned terrorist organisation is clear. This Russian private military company, it says, poses a threat to British nationals abroad. In a statement, the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, said that Wagner had been involved in looting, torture and barbarous murders. Its operations in Ukraine, the Middle East and Africa, she said, were a threat to global security. In practice, the Wagner Group has been seriously weakened by its failed mutiny in June against Russia's generals, as well as the recent death in a suspicious plane crash of its top leadership.
Gabon's new military leader has held talks with the opposition candidate, Albert Ondo Osa, who claimed victory in last week's annulled presidential election. The opposition leader had boycotted General Brice Oligui Nguema's inauguration on Monday. Thomas Nadi is in Libreville.
The meeting between the two could mean that the opposition may have a role to play in the interim government. Last Wednesday's coup seems to be enjoying some popular support, but many are uncertain about the future. General Nguema has not said when he plans to return the country to civilian rule. Meanwhile, the junta has released some prisoners, including pro-democracy activists and leader of the most powerful trade union federation, Jean-Remy Yama.
There are reports of clashes between protesters and security forces in the Guinean capital, Conakry, on the second anniversary of the military takeover. The authorities banned protests called by a collective of opposition parties who say no progress has been made towards a return to civilian rule. World News from the BBC. Satellite data from Brazil shows that the rate of deforestation in the Amazon is continuing to fall. According to the latest figures, it dropped by 2/3 in August compared with the same period last year. There was a similar decline in July. The Brazilian president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, said the data showed that his government's environmental policies were working. A new computer analysis tool built by the UN suggests that around 6 billion tonnes of sand is dredged from the world's oceans annually. The UN's Environment Agency said the practice endangered marine life and coastal communities. Ben Lowings reports.
According to the report, some dredging vessels act like vacuum cleaners. They extract both sand and the microorganisms that fish feed on. Life on the ocean floor isn't given a chance to recover. An agency spokesman says the rate at which sand is being removed is getting close to matching the natural replenishment rate of sediment deposited annually by the world's rivers. Sand is among the most exploited natural resource in the world. It's used in industries such as construction. The South China Sea, the North Sea and the east coast of the United States are among the areas where the most dredging has occurred.
The Republican leader in the US Senate, Mitch McConnell, has brushed aside questions about his health on returning to Congress after the summer break. The 81-year-old again froze when speaking at a news conference last week. Earlier, his office released an assessment by a doctor in Congress which concluded he had not suffered a stroke or a seizure. In tennis, Novak Djokovic has qualified for the semi-finals of the US Open. He comfortably beat the American Taylor Fritz in straight sets. It's the 47th time Djokovic has reached a Grand Slam semi-final, a record for a male player. The Serbian is hoping to win his fourth title in New York. BBC News.